Well, actually, Putin is not supporting Bashar Assad. She is supporting illegitimate president of Syrian Arab Republic. And that is the main explanation. Assad is not our relative, is not our friend, is not even our ally. He is our customer, because we sell weapons to Syria. We also have trade relationship, or used to have trade relationship with Syrian Republic before the war was launched nearly more than 3 years ago. During the time of the father Assad, during the time of the Soviet Union and the Syrian Arab Republic, we were allies and friends. Assad is equally orientated to our judgment to East, meaning Russia, and to West. So we don't believe, and we cannot even suggest that he is a friend of Putin, and that is the reason Putin is supporting him. Putin, as a lawyer by profession, he is supporting the idea of the international law in this specific conflict. If they oppose the legitimate president, they are insurgents. It's a mutiny. A mutiny is an act which is very, very clearly is described by law. If you remember the book Mutiny on the Bounty, or the movie, you definitely remember the end, the logical end of the mutineers. Well, don't you know that? Well, it started from Tunisia, with the self-burning of a gentleman who was a merchant, I understand, and a small business person, and he burned himself with gasoline. And that actually was launching the riots in the Tunisian Republic. The situation in Egypt was also similar. The Tahrir Square people were opposing the Mubarak regime. The other venues in, say, in the Persian Gulf, in Bahrain, in other small kingdoms of the Persian Gulf, also been the so-called Arab street rioting and demonstrations against the existing institutions or governments. The result, definitely, that was a result. But the sources of this unrest were numerous. Low social economic status of the total majority of the citizens of these countries. The negligence of the authorities to the important matters of the people of their countries. The long-term authoritarian regimes, say like in Egypt, in Libya, in Bahrain, or whenever. And the growing percentage of young people who were disillusioned with the present time status quo and also been stripped of any opportunity for a so-called social lifting. No educational perspective, professional improvements, social and economic growth for their life, for their families, for their households, for their future children, or whatever. So the huge immigration to Europe. The Mediterranean is quite a lake, and it's not the Pacific Ocean. Then realization that being in Europe, it's a challenging competition to survive and to prosper. So a number of people is coming back, but already with a different perspective and with different knowledge how life might be organized. Why in Paris it's so nice and quiet and you know, whatever, agreeable, and why in Cairo nothing is attractive and nothing is, so to say, positive. So that was those were the reasons for this unrest. And what is also important, I didn't mention it in my presentation, but that was the so-called technological background. It was the first time ever when informational technologies been used for that purpose. Strictly speaking, it was the first military application of informational technologies in such a massive scale. And it proved its efficiency, and now the importance of the threat of the cyber security is universal. And all countries are taking care of that, and people are aware of that. Even cyber detachments are being created in different armies and headquarters. And that is practical reality.
Okay.
A flash mob technology is actually gathering the people. They might be gathering for dancing, or they might be gathering for a protest. It might be dancing with the music, or might be protest with the Molotov cocktail. It's easy to say. It's not easy to come to a practical solution. But what our understanding is very simplistic, and it might be creating more questions or more criticism. First of all, the priority of Russian foreign policy. A military solution is not a solution. It's only a vehicle to delay the real solution of a political or social economic problem. So our prime intention is to abolish military intervention or military tools for achieving political goals. Though they say that war is the final tool of politics. That is true. But at the same time, we understand we're living in a world where military solutions are not successful anymore. So that is very simple. Stop the bloodshed in Syria. Let them sit around the table with all their protagonistic, antagonistic, or whatever ideas, and force, if necessary, them talk. Because the situation around any table is very simplistic. You are either around the table or you are in the menu. There is no other options. So if you are on the menu, then your problems are being solved by strangers, by somebody else. And a guarantee that they would care really for the solution of your problems is practically zero.
Okay.
So this is our attitude not only to the Middle East, but to all other conflicting areas of the world. The practical threats and challenges to the ordinary people living in the conflict areas are very equal, regardless of their confessionality. Christians or Muslims, Sunni or Shia, Jews or whatever, Catholics, they are all exposed to similar dangers and threats over war. War is absolutely indecent behavior of humans. So humans starting a war, they are losing human spirit, and they eventually are being transformed. The terroristic groups, they are originally transformed before even starting their activity. It's a result of indoctrinations, of brainwashing, of kind of forming the people in a specific way that they are becoming more convenient tool or vehicle to achieve a target. A target, okay, the Islamic Caliphate in the Middle East or whatever, or the supremacy of, say, this confession over the other. It might be not necessarily Islamic terrorists, it might be Christian terrorists as well. Crusades, actually it was the same, though medieval way of, bringing freedom and justice to the, barbarian territories and people. With very different machinery, with maybe less victims and efficiency of this machinery. But now it's very similar. And also what is important, it's an easy ground to, so to say, activate people and terminates their ratio. Because religious beliefs are based on a very simplistic motion. You believe or you do not believe. It's an absolute negation. There is no chiaroscuro, as Italians say. There is no shades. It's either yes or no. So thus the manipulation tools are also very obvious. You join us, you're our friend. You are not, you're our enemy. And so the definition line is very clear-cut. So when I was saying about, actually I was responding to a question, that's the Christians in this specific areas are exposed to dangers. That is true. Definitely all others, all civilians are exposed to. And to be honest, if you've ever been to the Middle East, it's not easy to distinguish a Christian from a non-Christian if they are, so to say, not having the specific insignia or patterns of distinction. If it's not the headdresses or the crosses on their necks. So, but it is a result of a practical policy of the jihadists. They identify the areas where the Christians are concentrating for centuries. So in this respect, they are easy prey. They are easy to identify, and definitely they are easy to extinguish or humiliate, because until you are not prepared, if you are not informed, you are not prepared. And they definitely try to do it in the most spontaneous way, though planning is behind it, no doubt. Actually, Russia is doing. The Russian government is using all the tools and all special and obvious tools to identify the whereabouts of the hostages, to use our contacts with special services of the countries of the areas. We are talking directly to the terrorists. We are negotiating, if necessary, directly with them. We are talking with all. If our people, our people of the confession are involved, we are doing what we can, and on all levels. Because sometimes, in most cases, it's not the genocide per se. It might be just the crafty business of, hostage taking and ransom getting, and you take the present time piracy, sea piracy. It's not Somalian people who are doing this business. They are just overtaking the ship for $100 each. And then, when the negotiation starts, where these negotiations are hosted, in Lausanne, in Geneva, in London, in Paris, the best and most expensive lawyers from both sides, they've been hired by Somalian hostage takers? Come on. So it's easy. Well, it's not easy, but if you think and if you look into the matter, then you will see the specific assurance companies, the owners of the cargo, the ship owners. Everyone is profiting.